everybody, it's Rosie from Whispers of the Soul here. Hope everyone's having a lovely Saturday. So this is my second video. The first video that I did I posted last week, and you can find this on YouTube under my channel Whispers of the Soul, or on Facebook as well, Whispers of the Soul. And that first video, just a quick recap, was covering the story of how I became a Reiki practitioner, and it involved my spirit guide telling me how to heal my cat Trubshaw of liver cancer. And Trubshaw was given 2 months to live, and due to the healing that I did on him, he lived for another 2.5 years. So this story is a follow-on from that video. So if you haven't seen that video, please see that one first before you start this one. So in the last video, I stopped at a point where it was his time to go. So I'll go from there. It was in 2016, and it was in April. And I remember it was a very hot summer, well, spring going into summer, because it was the year that I have got an identical twin. So if you see another one like me, yeah, that's my twin. And it was the year of my sister's wedding. So I did spend a lot of time outside trying to catch some sun, so I looked good for my sister's wedding day. And my cat Trubshaw was a keen sunbather as well as being a florist. As I said to you, he really liked being with flowers and nature. Florist in a previous life, it was a joke that we all thought that he was a florist previously. Anyway, so he really enjoyed being out in the sun with me. So it was on a Saturday morning, and he normally would join me outside actually to catch some rays, as I say. But this time he didn't. So I actually went to my bedroom where he would sleep at the end of my bed, and I got him. And I took him outside, and I would put him normally on my towel, and he would lay down and enjoy the sun. But he didn't. And something was wrong there, because as us pet owners, we always know when something's wrong with our animals, don't we? So something was wrong. And that voice that I mentioned previously, my spirit guide, who has been speaking to me since I was 7 years old, said to me, "Rosie, he's not going to be with you this summer." And I thought, no, I don't want to hear that. But there was truth to that voice. Anyway, because he wasn't settling outside, I picked him up, and I actually told my mum at the time what I had just heard in my head. Anyway, I walked back into the house and I put him in my bedroom. Excuse me. And I thought, right, I'll just pop him back on the bed, and he can just chill out there. And throughout that whole Saturday, I kept coming in and out of the house, and every time I would pass by my bedroom door where I could see Trubshaw at the end of my bed, the voice said to me, "Check his breathing." And I thought, okay, so the voice, if I'm listening to this voice, it's check the breathing, so I'm making sure the chest is going up and down. There wasn't any rapid movements, but he was breathing and he was asleep. So that's as much as I thought of that. Until it was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, where I went and I sat on the bed with him. And as I sat on the bed with him, he jumped off. And then I could see his nostrils were... And I thought, right, let's go straight to the emergency vets. So I took him to the emergency vets, and the vet said to me, "Rosie, I'm really sorry, but he's got 60% breathing." And he wasn't very well. So she did what she did, her medical bits for him. And she said, if he gets any worse, you'll need to bring him back for a PTS. As I said before, I worked in the veterinary industry. PTS, put to sleep. So euthanasia. So I was like, okay. And she said, and I would contact you, because it was the emergency vets, I would contact your vets on Monday and just make them aware and have a quality of life check, etc. But we already knew then, I think it was going to be his time. So we booked him in on the Monday. We spent the weekend with him. We booked him on the Monday at 5 o'clock. That's the earliest appointment they had, for euthanasia. So that whole weekend was a roller coaster of emotions, as we all know with our animals. That choice that we have to make to, make that decision to say goodbye to them, and it's us that's having to do it. It is one of the hardest things we have to do as pet owners. And working in the veterinary industry, I came up against that quite a lot, with owners wanting reassurance that they were doing and making the right decision. And it always, for me personally, it always comes down to quality of life. If the animal's not got quality of life anymore, it's the kindest thing. So so he was booked in on the Monday at 5 o'clock, and that Monday I spent with him, and I have been able to talk to animals telepathically since I was a child. I get words, I get voices from them, I get images. And I was chatting to him telepathically, just saying to him, thank you so much for allowing me to be your mummy on this earth's plane and look after you. And he was thanking me as well, and I was just saying thank you and so much gratitude towards him for teaching me about Reiki. Because if it wasn't for dear Trubshaw, I don't know. I don't know if I would have got into it. It was because of the cancer the years before that I discovered this gift that I had. And when it was time for him almost to go to the vets, I did say to him, don't worry, there's going to be spirits that come over to help guide you over in transition, and I'm going to be with you the whole time. So we took him, and it's not normal, is it, for a vet to have a smile on their face as they see you as they're about to euthanize your pet. But this vet did, because he was the vet that discovered the liver cancer 2.5 years ago, previous to this. And he just said to me as I walked into the consult room with Trubshaw, Rosie, I was expecting us to do this a long time ago. And he just had this big smile on his face, and I just giggled. Because it was a very unusual experience, and especially for a vet to say that. Very scientific based, aren't they? So yeah, that was that. So yeah, he was euthanized, and I was with him the whole time. And I always remember my mum crying, saying to me, oh, Rosie, if you want to stay with the body for a bit. And I was like, no, he's not there anymore. I just knew straight away, I could feel it on an energetic level that's not Trubshaw. He's gone. His essence has left the body. What I did find amusing in this very sad situation was my dad. My dad has always pretended that he didn't like the cats. So we had Trubshaw and Monty, my twin and I. Monty passed a few years before Trubshaw. And yeah, he just didn't really think much of them, to be fair. But when I came out of that veterinary clinic with an empty carrier, my dad actually broke down crying. And he couldn't drive us back for a good 10 minutes because he was sobbing. So Mum and I actually found that quite funny, because he never paid any attention really to Trubshaw previously, and we didn't think that he really liked him because they just weren't bonded. But no, Dad was really affected by it, and it was quite emotional really to watch. So anyway, once he'd stopped crying, we were able to go home. And this is when the signs started happening. I mean, they happened straight away. When we pass out of the body, animals, humans, we are very earthbound for the beginning part of our journey over into spirit, because our loved ones keep us here, our energy in the thoughts. So thoughts have energy frequencies. And so I was obviously thinking of Trubshaw a lot, so that kept him quite earthbound, his spirit. So that's why a lot of people do experience signs straight away, because their loved ones are around them during that transitional period. Okay, so when I got home, I went and sat in my bedroom just to process stuff. Now, my cat Trubshaw used to push the door open with his paw to have access to the room or wherever he wanted to go. He wouldn't jump up and open it. Not like my Burmese that I have now, Stanley, very intelligent. He jumps up, he opens doors, he carries things. He's like a dog, basically. You can play fetch with him. So Trubshaw would just push the door with his paw. And he had very fluffy paws because he was a long-haired British Blue. I'll always remember his paws. Anyway, so I'm sat on my bed and just being quiet, and the door is pushed open. And there's no one behind it, of course. And I just knew that was him. So that was the first sign, and that was the moment I got home. The second sign came about 2 days later, and it was about 11 o'clock at night, and I was kind of like drifting in and out of sleep, so I was half asleep. I was just about to go into sleep, if that makes sense. And something made me open my eyes, so I opened my eyes, and Trubshaw was sat in front of me on the bed, and he was as physical as I am now. So my brain didn't have time to process anything. It was just, Trubshaw was in front of me, like normal. And then the second thought that came into my brain was, no, Trubshaw's dead. And then the third thought came in. As I'm still looking at him, he hasn't disappeared, he is there in front of me, was, oh my God, this is his spirit. And I said to him, oh, hello, baby. And as I said that, he just disappeared into the darkness. And of course I burst out crying, and I just thought, wow, that was lovely that he came to visit me, and he just sat there, and for me to be able to see him physically, he was physically lying on my bed, was just absolutely amazing. So that was the second thing that happened. And I think the best thing that happened to me with Trubshaw was about 4 months after his passing. And I don't know if any of you know about astral bodies and astral travelling and the astral planes. By all means, leave comments. I'd love to chat to you about it, and I can do a video on it at some point. So this was the best experience so far of my spiritual journey with my cat Trubshaw. He made another appearance. However, this time, as I said, it was about 4 months on from his passing. So I hadn't had any signs since he appeared on the bed. And it was about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up and I went to the bathroom, and I just thought, well, I'll go lie back in bed for a bit. I don't have to get up for an amount of time. I just want to go and chill in bed. But as I did that, I was suddenly in a different dimension. And at the time, I didn't really understand what was going on. I now have more knowledge to and experience in this. But at the time, I didn't know what was going on. The reason I say I suddenly was in a different dimension, because my physical body had gone to the loo and then gone back and got into bed. But for me, my consciousness didn't do that. My physical human body did, if that makes sense. My consciousness was stood in the corridor, and as I was in the corridor, I could see my mum in the lounge, even though she wasn't in the lounge physically with her body. She was actually in bed. So as I saw her, I turned to go into my room, and I could see this black cat. And I knew it was like a 1-year-old, it was still very young, and it was black, and it was playing on my bed. And I shouted to my mum in this dimension, Mum, there's a black cat playing on my bed. And then the next moment, I'm actually stood in my bedroom. And as I'm stood in my bedroom, I'm stood at the end of the bed, and I'm looking down the bed towards where my pillows were. And there's Trubshaw. Now, I was fully conscious during this experience. Nothing was blurred. Everything was as clear as day. And Trubshaw was sat there staring at me. Now he had, and still has, the most beautiful copper eyes. British Blues are known for their beautiful eyes. And he's just glaring at me. And then I noticed this black cat sat next to him. And at this point, guys, I didn't know why was I seeing a black cat and why was Trubshaw sat next to this black cat. I had no idea. Because when he passed away, actually, my dad said at the time, because I was living with my parents during this period, oh, Rosie can't have another cat, which of course destroyed me, because for me, as an empath and an animal healer, I have to be with animals. So I didn't understand why this black cat was in this dimension with me. And Trubshaw didn't say anything to me telepathically. He actually used his eyes, and with his eyes he looked at me straight in the eyes, and then he drew his eyes down to where this black cat was next to him. And I had no idea at this time what this meant. I do now, but I didn't then. And then he got up and he started to walk down the bed towards me. And like I said, I'm fully conscious. I'm like, oh my God, you're going to disappear again. Like he did before when he was on the bed. When I said, oh, hello, baby. And then he disappeared. But he didn't. He carried on straight towards me. And as he came towards me, I got my hand and I went to touch him. And as I touched him, I could touch him and feel him physically. I could even feel his spine as my hand was going down his body. And I was just in this absolute state of unconditional love. There was so much love around me, everybody. I can't even explain the energy field. It was just out of this world, literally. And so as I stroke him, I was like, oh my God, I can feel you physically. So I then got onto the bed with him and I wrapped him in my arms. And I kept saying, thank you, Spirit, thank you, Spirit. And as I grabbed him in my arms, I said, and I don't know why I said it, it just came out, my heart is going to explode with unconditional love. And as I said that, everybody, I opened my eyes and I was back in my body. And I was in my bedroom. Trubshaw wasn't there. My body was in bed. Now, that black cat is Mr. Darcy. Now, Mr. Darcy's my black rescue cat from the Worthing Cats Welfare Trust. And not long after this experience with Trubshaw and him showing me the black cat, my dad eventually said, one day randomly, I think I'll let Rosie have another cat. And within 3 days, I got Mr. Darcy. And he's pure black. And he was around 1 year old as well when I got him. Now I know, everybody, Trubshaw was saying to me, Rosie, Mummy, whatever I want to call it, that's your next mission. That's the next cat that you need to help. Anyway, so I still have Mr. Darcy, and he's absolutely gorgeous. He is the neediest cat that I've ever had in my life. You know, perfect lap cat. When people are like, oh, I want a lap cat. Well, Mr. Darcy's beyond that. It's like he's a baby and needs to be carried everywhere. And there's another story about Mr. Darcy, about with animal communication, which I will cover in other videos about animal communication and how they communicate with us and how we can communicate with them, because we all have this ability. I think a lot of people think that, well, I don't have that. We all have the ability to be healers, to be clairaudient, clairvoyant, clairsentient, speak with animals. We all have this ability. It's just about waking up to it and becoming aware of it and growing it and expanding it. And it's so exciting, this journey. So yeah, I'll be really excited to share a story about Mr. Darcy and what he said to me when I first met him. And I didn't know anything about his past. So he showed me what happened and why he then was rescued and stuff like that. So I'll be excited to explain that. But just going quickly back onto Trubshaw, that was the most wonderful experience I've ever had. There's many more, but that one really stands out for me because it showed me that we all have the ability to be able to hold our loved ones physically again. Please put in the comments below if you've had any type of experience like this. I'll be so interested to hear your stories. But the final thing that I did was a year after Trubshaw's passing, and I had said to him the evening before, oh, Trubshaw, I haven't heard from you in a while. Give me a sign. And it was the next morning. I was doing some gardening for my dad at the time, and I was digging, and it was about 4 hours of digging and weeding this back part of the garden. I even found a hibernating bumblebee, which was nice, but yeah, I had to dig it all up. So unfortunately the bumblebee was woken up. But during this time, it was about 3 hours into digging, I saw something glistening in the mud, and so I picked it up. And I don't know if anyone else used to have these on their cat's collars. It was before the time of microchipping. So it was a little barrel, and in it you would have your details. So if the cat got lost, people could open it up and see who the owner is, etc. And I couldn't physically open it because it'd been in the ground for a long time. And we had 2 other cats previously, and it could have been someone else's cat's thing, so what's the likelihood? But my dad came home and managed to get it open, and it said Trubshaw and my address and my telephone number, and I had asked for him for a sign the night before, so for that to happen the next day. So what am I saying there, guys? I'm basically saying that they're always giving us signs, just also ask for them as well. And it won't always happen straight away because they don't work. Time is a human concept. There's no time on the other side, and it depends on what they're doing as well. But yeah, no, he definitely delivered that sign for me. Anyway, I will leave it there. But yeah, no, I'll be back on next week with another video, and I hope everybody has a lovely weekend. Okay, bye.